was only because David, a man after God's own heart, found the Ark of the Covenant in the Judean hill country. As we read in 2 Samuel 6, Bill, you remember that in fact this was at long last the finish of the conquest of the Promised Land. But how does it happen? How does the Old Testament describe this event? And this is what I found so helpful myself, and I shared it with him, because what you find with the Ark of the Covenant is a set of parallels with what you read in Luke 1 and 2. And so I pointed out how it was that in 2 Samuel, when David brings the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem to complete the conquest of the Promised Land, we read a sequence of actions. So for example, in 2 Samuel 6 verse 2, David goes into the Judean hill country. You read chapter 1 of Luke's Gospel, Mary arose and went into the Judean hill country, just like David had done. In Luke 1:42, you hear about Elizabeth exclaiming, "Who am I that the mother of my Lord should come to me?" Just as when David found the Ark of the Covenant, he said, "Who am I that the Ark of the Lord should come to me?" And then in Luke 1:43, upon Mary's arrival, Elizabeth is filled with such a sense of awe. "How is this granted to me?" David exclaims the same thing. "How is this granted to me?" And so likewise, this joyful response of Elizabeth is matched with John the Baptist leaping for joy in utero, just as you read in 2 Samuel 6 that when David found the ark, he's leaping for joy in front of the ark in the presence of all of Israel. Just as David responds to the ark being found with a song of thanksgiving, so does the Blessed Virgin in the Magnificat. And just as the ark remained there in the Judean hill country for 3 months, how long does Our Lady stay with Elizabeth there in the same locale for 3 months? I went down about a half a dozen or more parallels between the ark narrative in 2 Samuel and the ark narrative of the Blessed Virgin to show that this is how in the early church the fathers could see and celebrate the Blessed Virgin Mary as the ark of the new covenant. Because what is she? But she is her immaculate humanity overshadowed by the Holy Spirit. In fact, I pointed out how in Luke 1:35, the proclamation, the annunciation, the Holy Spirit shall come upon you and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. We both had studied Greek, so I said, look at the term for overshadow, episkiadzane. It's a very rare verb, but it's used with regard to the Spirit overshadowing the ark in the Old and the glory of the Lord overshadowing the Blessed Virgin Mary here in Luke chapter 1.